According to sixth economic census, there are 8.05 million women entrepreneurs out of total 58.5 million entrepreneurs in India. That makes it just 13.7% women business owners. Why? What's happening? What stops them from not making to the list? And those who make to the list, what is so special about them? Is it about their social background? Is it about their educational background? Or is it about their capability? What is it? I think the most important thing that is there is the will. And but how to invoke this? How to change the minds of society? Is it possible at all? We're going to answer some questions in this episode of Changemakers. We are having very special guests with us. These are young and promising ladies filmmakers. Let's welcome them. We have Vrinda Samartha of Believe Films, Bangalore, and Drishya of Stray Factory, Chennai with us. Vrinda and Drishya produced and directed short films under the campaign Her and Now, and they have portrayed the struggles of these ordinary women becoming into women extraordinaire of confidence and independence. Vrinda's film Ritu Goes Online, which is a short documentary, is about how Ritu would make a big success by just following her will. And Drishya's film Be Salvi and Daughters is a short fiction which is about a woman who's struggling after her husband's death and how, with the help of a daughter, she's able to become successful. Vrinda, hi, how are you?
Thank you.
And Drishya, welcome to our show, Changemakers. We are very proud to host you today. Let's straight away jump into your journey into these films that you made. Both the films I watched, Be Selvi and Daughters, and Ritu Goes Online, these both were inspiring. Be Salvi, especially very heartwarming. Drishya, that you made Be Salvi and Daughters, what inspired you to make this particular movie?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. Well, this film was actually inspired by a lot of women around me who are very similar to the protagonist Selvi in the film. Be it my closest friend's mom from a very young age, who's almost like my mother, to very recently a colleague's mother who was struggling to, accept even the idea that she could actually go into something like a business. So interestingly, my mom was the exact opposite. My mom was a working mother, and so I've always seen, and so was my grandmother actually, and so I've seen a lot of working women in my life. But when I was young, I never really understood the value of it. I was always comparing my mother, I suppose, with other mothers who could give more time at home. And I didn't realize the sacrifices that my mother had to make to keep her own ambitions alive and also provide for the family, to be very honest. And as I grew older, I realized that these moms that I had idolized when I was younger, were actually struggling to, break out and come into their own beyond a point. It was almost as if we started outgrowing them beyond a point. There were a lot of unfulfilled dreams, and even if there wasn't, there's nothing to look down upon people who have, women who have made the choice to stay at home. But there are, I mean, in my experience, with the women around me, I've seen a lot of them who have some small unfulfilled dreams and who believe that maybe the big bad world of business and corporate is not for them, that they don't have the confidence or the will, like you said, to stand up against very strong opposing forces. And it always made me a little sad. And I feel like this is something we've definitely conditioned our women to believe. And now in our generation, there is such a huge seismic shift with that we so easily say that women have to be independent, we have to go out there, we have to be in jobs. So it's a great thing that we've managed to conquer a huge hill. But there's such a huge gap between me and say our mom's generation. And that's why I wrote the story from the perspective of Selvi, but also with her daughter in mind too. She's kind of like the eyes of the film for me, because that's how I understood the character Selvi as well. Because it's very easy to say, just go and do it.
Yeah.
Like, you've started your business, just face up to it. But she doesn't do that. She has to understand. And even if she does once in a while, she has to be more understanding towards what are the actual struggles and more emotional and psychological struggles that women who have for so many years been told that their place is at home and that they don't have financial decisions in their hands.
That's true.
And, and they
Yeah.
can't stand up against something that's very strong. What does it take psychologically for the person to get past
Mm.
that? That's what I wanted to explore with the character of Selvi.
Super, super. And in fact, many a time women just wait for some misery to happen, like what happened with P. Selvi, that she took this plunge only when her husband had expired. She was doing it, but she was not fully into it.
Yeah.
So there are a lot millions of women who become like second earners, who have a state of second earners in their families. But people like Ritu, they are inspiration. I want to know from you, Vrinda, how did you come upon this story of Ritu? Can you share the whole journey of it?
Yeah. Firstly, I mean, I don't think I got an opportunity to share with Drishya that, it's a very relatable film.
Yes.
Like, this generation gap that the film talks about. I think it's beautiful and it's connected to me as well. So going to Ritu, when we started looking for stories for women entrepreneurs, we got in touch with a lot of NGOs and funding organizations. It's unfortunate that they couldn't lead us to many stories. And since I'm based out of India, I wanted to make something from my own geographical area. But it was really surprising that I couldn't find a story, and there were a lot of self employed women who ran mills, boutiques, shops, but there weren't women who were running businesses which were also generating employment and income to other people. Ritu was like one story that we found because she was awarded like an MSME award for women entrepreneurship. Another interesting thing that we also found when we were researching is that a lot of businesses were registered under women names, but they were not actually run by women. They were registered under women because of the benefits that certain policies give to women entrepreneurs, but they were actually run by men. And so the number of businesses outside the city run by women at the helm is very, very small, and it's stark. When we met Ritu, and she too always had a desire. She, as a kid, she wanted to be a doctor, but she didn't even get to finish her education. And then she was doing farming, and then she was doing cattle rearing, and then she waited for 15 years because her grandmother-in-law wouldn't allow her to finish her education. So she waited. She had to earn the trust of her family members to finally get back to school and start her own business. And the desire was always there. So her fight was more external. She had to take into consideration where does she get an opportunity to like sort of explore what she wants to do. And what another thing that really stuck me was that this is a desire that even her mother had. She wanted to work. She was a qualified nurse. She'd got an opportunity to work, but she did not get the chance to actually take up that job offer. And again, she was fighting external forces, family, society, etc. So it sort of stuck me that how long does it take for a woman to have this desire and to finally get to do what she wants to do? So that's why drew me to tell this story of Ritu.
Great, superb. So before we go much deeper into the discussion, I would also like to share the trailer of Ritu Goes Online with our audiences so that they know what we are talking about.
आज मैं बहुत खुश हूँ क्योंकि आज मैं अपने गांव के स्कूल में जा रही हूँ। टीचरों ने मेरे को इनवाइट किया है बच्चों को मोटिवेट करने के लिए कि भैया आप आओ।
मैम आपने बैग का बिजनेस क्यों किया?
मैम आपको सोसाइटी से सपोर्ट मिला था।
ऐसे क्यों बोला था आपने पहले बार?
लेडीज है वो उस टाइम काम था, बहुत ज़्यादा भीड़ थी, इस वजह से इनको मना कर दिया। फिर ये सेकंड टाइम फिर आई, फिर इनको बोला गया जाओ गोडाउन चले जाओ वहाँ से।
यहाँ तो इसके दादा दादी ने नहीं पढ़ने दिया रितु को, और वहाँ उसकी है ना दादी सास ने नहीं पढ़ने दिया, उसके मरने के बाद पढ़ी लिखी है।
तो मैंने अपनी उसी कमी को अपना ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट किया था, उसी चीज को कंप्लीट करने के लिए कि मैं अपनी पढ़ाई पे फोकस कर सकूं।
पहले स्कूल कॉलेज भी नहीं होते थे, गांव में होते थे, काम ज्यादा था जी। हाँ, घर पे जमींदार लोग थे ना जी हम तो, फिर घर पे भी चाहिए जी।
पहले लड़कियां स्कूल नहीं जाती थी बेटा, ये उनको सिखा देते थे सिलाई कढ़ाई बुनाई की, कम से कम अपना कुछ कर लेगी। अब तो सब कुछ एक से एक
अब तो सब ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर कर देते हैं।
टर्नओवर कितना है? क्यों हंस रहे हो? क्या दिख गया? कितना हो गया?
இருமா, இங்க நான் கரெக்டா தான் பண்ணிருக்கேன், இங்க மட்டும்
கை எடுக்கிறியா? மரம் மாதிரி வளர்ந்துருக்கு, புடவை கட்ட கூட இன்னும் தெரியல.
எங்க போன நீ? நான் எவ்வளோ நேரமா தேடிட்டு இருந்தேன்.
வேலை இருக்கு.
என்ன வேலை? மறுபடியும் புடவை வாங்கி குவிக்க போறியா என்ன?
என்னை பார், நான் யார் என்று தெரிகிறதா? ஹே, உன்னை தான், என் பேர் என்ன மறந்தாயா? ஹே, என்னை பார், நான் யார் என்று தெரிகிறதா? ஹே, உன்னை தான், என் பேர் என்ன மறந்தாயா?
காமெடி பண்ணாதம்மா. இந்த வயசுல உங்க அம்மாட்ட நீ என்ன எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ற?
இவ்வளோ நாள் நம்ம யார் சப்போர்ட்டும் இல்லாமல் அம்மா மேனேஜ் பண்ணாங்கல்ல. ஐ திங்க் ஷி கேன் டூ இட். மா, இந்த போர்டு துரு பிடிச்சிருச்சு, பேசாமல் உன் பேரில் ஒரு போர்டு போட்டுக்கோ.
எல்லாம் கனவுல தான் நடக்கும்.
நடத்தணும்னு நினச்சா நடக்கும். Let's do business, be Selfie.
So, what I see common between the two stories, Drishya and Vrinda, was the common threads were the daughter in B. Salvi and daughters and Ritu, where B. Salvi's daughter plays a very important instrument in her success, and we can see that Ritu's husband is very, very cooperative and very supportive of her venture. Many a time women who really want to do, who have a desire to do something really good, even if let's not say just entrepreneurship, even if they just want to work, and as you said that they were not allowed, that they didn't have, they had the will but they didn't have the permission to do it. So how do you think we can bring about a change in the mindsets of people? Can our films do, they can contribute to bring about some change in there?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that once the screenings were held, people got back to me saying, it was the husband more supportive of her business because he saw benefit in it, like a benefit as in that it's something good that's coming out of it. It's good that so when you attach a positive feedback or a positive attribute to women going and out and working, or women starting a business, when they see that as something that's positive, that brings about a positive change, I think that's when I think people will also open up their minds to that option. Another thing that I saw when we narrated Ritu's story through her expressing her story, just sharing her story to the school kids. The boys were not interested. It's a very interesting thing. The boys were not interested in listening to her story, and they were, this is going to be another boring session kind of a thing. But when principal introduced the scale of her business, Ritu's business, all ears perked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and you could see the change in their faces. They were interested in knowing her story. Through that discussion, what also came about was both boys and girls had seen women mostly as homemakers in their setup, and very few of them were going out and working, but they hadn't seen a woman at the helm of a business. So you could see that that it opened up their minds to the possibility of having a woman in at a helm of a business, and running it
True.
successfully. So I think exposure makes helps. That's one thing. Sharing our stories and exposing kids to more such stories and having more conversations about. Yeah.
Great. So, Drishya, let's have a look at the trailer for B. Salvi and Daughters.
மா இருமா இங்க நான் கரெக்டா தான் பண்ணிருக்கேன், நீ இங்க மட்டும்
கை எடுக்கிறியா? மரம் மாதிரி வளர்ந்துருக்க, புடவை கட்ட கூட எதுவும் தெரியல.
எங்க போன நீ? நான் எவ்வளவு நேரமா தேடிட்டு இருந்தேன்.
வேலை இருக்கு.
என்ன வேலை? மறுபடியும் புடவை வாங்கி குவிக்க போறியா என்ன?
என்னை பார், நான் யார் என்று தெரிகிறதா? ஹே உன்னைத்தான், என் பேர் என்ன மறந்தாயா? ஹே என்னை பார், நான் யார் என்று தெரிகிறதா? ஹே உன்னைத்தான், என் பேர் என்ன மறந்தாயா?
காமெடி பண்ணாதம்மா. இந்த வயசில் உங்கள் அம்மாட்ட நீ என்ன எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணுற?
இவ்வளோ நாள் நம்ம யார் சப்போர்ட்டும் இல்லாமல் அம்மா மேனேஜ் பண்ணாங்கல்ல. ஐ திங்க் ஷி கேன் டூ இட். மா இந்த போர்டு துரு பிடிச்சிருச்சு, பேசாமல் உன் பேரில் ஒரு போர்டு போட்டுக்கோ.
எல்லாம் கனவுல தான் நடக்கும்.
நடத்தணும்னு நினச்சா நடக்கும். லெட்ஸ் டூ பிஸ்னஸ் பி செல்வி.
So B. Salvi, when I watched here also, her confidence goes up the moment she says that the order for 87 saris, which makes her nervous because it's such a sudden leap in her journey, right? Being a working woman, being an entrepreneur. So what do you think is helpful to get more and more women as leaders in the leadership role?
Wow, I mean, it's a loaded question, but I think the first thing for me that occurs to me, which is what I was trying to explore in the film as well, like Vrinda pointed out, like her Ritu's story, which is a real story, and it's uncanny how similar it is to this fictional story that we had made up without before even meeting Vrinda or Ritu. But it is because that is the truth. But in her story, there are a lot of practicalities that come into the picture as well, which of course we knew existed also, but we chose to concentrate in this short film on her, on basically Selvi's mental journey and her emotional journey and how she overcomes her own self, basically. But the key here is that the reason that she feels all of this, which is the lack of confidence, or will she be able to do it, and being bogged down very easily, and like you said, only taking it up seriously after she's after 50 years of being under someone else's control. I think it boils down actually to self-esteem, and I think that this is something that comes up in many spheres, not just in leadership, not just in the workplace, in general, with a lot of emotional, physiological issues. I feel like this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, and even personally myself. And it even ties to what Vrinda was saying about generationally, how long does it take to overcome that? Because it's trauma, actually. It's a lot of trauma. It's a lot of women having to bear the burden of whatever it is at that point in society. And though we've moved forward, there is a new trauma. There are new, new burdens placed in front of us, and we're constantly working for not only our own, like walking past not only our own obstacles, but also years and years generationally what's been there. And I feel like the giant toll that it has taken on is our self-esteem.
True.
So like in a very deep sense, there is always a self-doubt. I mean, even the most, like you're saying, like, I'm working woman, fine, we've made these films, like, I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm still, even if I come off as very confident and very alpha, I'm still ridden with self-doubt. It's my general, schema of being, and especially when it's in a room full of men who don't think twice about what they say and the decisions that they make and the confidence of this. They just live their lives, like, not even in a bad way, in a good way. They just live their lives. And I think that this is the first thing that we need to address. Like, why is there such Why are there such deep-seated, doubts in our own selves and in what already exists? Which is why I thought Selvi was interesting, because she is already doing it. She doesn't have to start anything new. She doesn't have to overcome new, hurdle. That's for another story. But in this story, it's just about you're already doing it. Like I'll share a short, a story, which is that I had a friend of mine whose mom was an excellent, biryani maker, so good that we felt that she's had to, make this into a business. She could sell really well. But when we seriously suggested it to her from time after time, and she only had this reaction one day where she said, I said, you could start your own business. And she said, business, me, never. And I was like, you're already doing it. You are running an entire household. You pretty much help run your elder son's business. You know the workings of it. You see in and day out. But you won't ever call yourself that. And that's what I brought to Selvi as well. She doesn't even believe in herself, what she's already doing first. So I think that can be a great, first step, which is why, like Vrinda was saying, just to show these positive reaffirmations of the fact that all this is already happening. Ritus exist. So many ritus must exist. Vrinda had to search so hard to find a story. Why? Because it's not that easy to tell her story. That's why there are not enough people looking to tell her story. So the more I feel like we search for it and we share it, and there are positive reinforcements that are going on, I feel like that we'll be able to heal our self-esteem issue.
True. I do agree that it takes 2 to 3 generations. I do agree to that what you said, Brinda. But I love how P. Salvi metamorphosed into somebody, the way with the kind of attitude she goes to that courier girl, and then the song plays in the background. Though I couldn't understand the language, I did understand. I just went by the subtitle, but it was very, very interesting to see the change in her. And Drishya, I need to know from you any particular challenges that you faced.
Ritu actually was, all credit goes to her, because she was, she quickly latched on to the idea of sharing her story, and let us into her house. Very, very uninhibitedly, she shared her story, and not hesitant at all. So,
and Drishya?
Well, first, I want to say that I really appreciate, Vrinda, that that's something that you're thinking about, because I think that it's very important as well. And I had those thoughts as well going in, especially because it's fiction and it tends to take on a lot more of the bias of the filmmaker. And I just want to say that I didn't see that bias at all in your film. And I thought the beauty of Ritu is the fact that it's so immersed in this, and because it's Ritu, right? It's herself and her personality, and she just draws you in. And I thought that it was so empathetic. Like I was just with her alone for the entire film. So I think you did a great job managing to. And my answer is actually along those lines, actually, which is that I thought it was really important, and it is really important when you're telling. In today's day and age, when you're telling a story, the perspective from which you're coming and who's telling whose story is increasingly more and more important. So while Selvi is very close to me in terms of people around me, I didn't want that lens to then become in with a 10% female crew, and the rest has just come in as plug and play, and they're in and out and don't really understand the nuances of the film. So to that end, my producer Tarana and we decided that we'll try to make it we wanted 100% female crew, but I think hit about like 85 to 90% by the end of it. But this was, while it sounds great, actually a huge challenge. And I think people don't talk about that part, that while we were committed to it, it is so easy. It would have been so easy for us to just say, it's okay, no, we'll just, because there are so few, we are shooting in Chennai, and in our industry, there are still so few women working in film crews, in the heads of departments, major technicians. And amongst them, there are, of course, date issues. Then, of course, our visions have to match. I mean, the pool is so small. So obviously, your struggle is that much higher. And so there were so many times in the crewing up process that we could have just sort of given up and gone for just any old crewing, but we kind of stuck to our guns. And I think it did add all the more perspective to the film. Like our DOP is a female DOP as well, and just having that lens, literally visually, sorry, of understanding the story and understanding the perspective, I think added a lot to it. And the second thing, which I think we have to say, which is that we did our entire post production through the lockdown, all of our films.
Oh, yes.
That's it. Actually, I haven't heard from Vrinda about how that was for her at all, like, because it was quite a challenge for me. I mean, I haven't even met, for instance, my music director in person. I watched the film once on a big screen before I locked it.
Right,
And that
right.
one time was like, and so it was like fully back and forth, online, and it was definitely not the ideal way to do it, but there's a story to tell there, I guess. How was it for you, Vrinda?
Oh, I'd completely forgotten about that whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, especially with edit, right? We are actually constructing the story on the edit table. Yeah, and doing that remotely was like quite a challenge. I didn't get to meet. I didn't get to same things. I didn't get to see the film on a big screen before taking the final out. Didn't get to meet my music director at all. It was the first time I was working with him. It was a different, discovered that things could be done this way too.
Yeah, exactly. Totally new normal totally happened with us.
So, given all the challenges of pandemic and given all the challenges of the resources and etc., you could come out as winner. We wish you all the best, and we definitely look forward to more such movies coming up from your end. I really sincerely look forward to that. We have a special gift from Mr. Gaurav Raturi, who's the CEO of cinemapreneur.com, for giving all our readers, community members, and visitors the privilege of free online screening of both the films. Ritu Goes Online and Be Salvi and Daughters. Guys, must watch it. You can click the link below and watch the movie anytime from 12th to 14th Feb. With this, we really thank our special guest of today, Vrinda and Drishya. Wish you all the best in your future. You are truly the hero and change makers of our show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. This was a very lovely conversation that we got to have, and thank you for hosting the films and
Thank you.
making it reach more and more people.
Definitely.